Alabama executed Kenneth Smith using nitrogen hypoxia, a controversial method, making it the world's first known case.
Smith's execution followed months of legal battles over the constitutionality of nitrogen hypoxia in capital punishment.
Smith was on death row for his role in a contract killing that took place more than 3 decades ago.
The method was administered at the William C. Hallman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama.
Alabama had previously attempted to execute Smith by lethal injection in 2022, which failed.
Smith's execution involved only 5 independent witnesses from the news media, and his family and the victim's family attended.
Alabama's use of nitrogen hypoxia raised concerns about human experimentation and the secrecy surrounding the execution method.
The U.S. Supreme Court, with 3 liberal justices dissenting, rejected Smith's final request for intervention.
Smith appeared conscious for at least 2 minutes during the execution, expressing love and gratitude before his death.
Now let's have our panel weigh in with comments. We have Karen, Vincent, and Bernard to give us their opinions. Karen, let's start things off.
I'm not sure that letting a bunch of maggots get a taste for gassing people is a really good idea.
But if Trump wins re-election, we may see that at the border or some other horrible tactic. I mean, there is not an ounce of empathy in the man-child.
They'll get the contract for Trump's concentration camps.
Horrible thought, but if Trumpty Dumpty is elected, he has already called for doing something similar.
Yes, he has. And unlike the Holocaust, there would be no one to stop Republicans from trying to exterminate the 200 million or so Americans they deem impure and Untermensch.
If this victim's family are Christians, do they not understand they will meet him in hell? They are no better than him.
Exactly, executions as spectator sport.
WWHD, what would Hitler do?
The Republican mantra.
Republicans are not pro-life, they are pro-rape, pro-forced birth, and pro-death.
Alabama is a stain on America.
There is no inconsistency in being in favor of prohibiting the killing of innocent human life, and being in favor of the death penalty for those who kill others. However, being against the death penalty for those who kill others, but being for the killing of innocent human life is obscene.
Which church do you attend?
Good for you. Religion means never having to say you're logical.
Don't get me started.
It's perfectly logical, hoedown, and has nothing to do with religion. If one truly believes in the hereafter, would not aborted souls be with God? If anything, being vehemently anti-abortion makes the most sense if one is an atheist, believing that our soul gets one shot at life, after which it is extinguished forever.
What a sick, twisted train of thought this is. Let me summarize. Life matters, except when an unfair trial may result in a wrongfully convicted person being put to death. How do you sleep at night?
Hold up. This crazy debate aside, Kenneth Smith is guilty of this crime.
I don't believe in the death penalty for both religious and secular reasons. I'm also pro-choice for secular reasons.
But Kenneth Smith killed an innocent woman for money. The only worse class of criminal was her husband, who hired them and killed himself rather than reckon with his sins.
What logic?
What innocent human life, Skippy?
There is no inconsistency in being in favor of the death penalty for those who kill others.
Because our criminal justice system is infallible, and innocent people have never been convicted of crimes. At least we can reverse that death penalty if we learn the defendant was actually innocent.
But at least we're in harmony with North Korea, China, Iran, and other great countries in embracing the death penalty. Go America!
An embryo is innocent human life, but why should we protect it at all costs when God condemns many more to death through miscarriage than all the abortionists combined?
Very good point, as on average 10% of all pregnancies end up as miscarriages, as it is nature's way of ridding the body of a malformed fetus.
My denomination is against the death penalty, and we think that the decision to abort is between a woman, her doctor, and God. What we truly oppose is a society where there are conditions that make a woman choose abortion for economic and social reasons. We want a society where being a single mom isn't a plunge into a lifetime of poverty. We want a society where women are not raped. We want a society where women and children are truly valued. We would like to see a society where birth control is free and easily available. I would think that over the last months, we have all seen that abortion is often a medical necessity, and yet we make women suffer mentally and physically for needing one. So we oppose abortion, but say we know that abortion is a tragedy that women choose to avoid another tragedy. Explain to me what would be tragic about letting a person live in prison for the rest of his life rather than murdering him.
A long prison sentence can be hell, I am told.
There are nearly 2 million Democrats in Alabama. The fact that the elected lead is a Republican doesn't mean the citizens all agree with them. And just this week, the congressional map got redrawn to include a second Black Opportunity District, which could well mean another seat in the House for Democrats.
I oppose the death penalty, and this was a horror, but I don't blame the whole state.
At least you show sense.
When people idly stand by, they bear responsibility. If you are not resisting evil, you are supporting it.
No more stain than opinions like yours are.
The Supreme Court once again showed who they are. They are not supreme, just a few good humans and a bunch of lazy, inane, pretend-to-be smart fake intellectuals, Neanderthals. They embarrass themselves and us around the world. No humanity, no justice, empty robes.
The GOP is pro-life until the moment of birth only.
It's time to abolish the death sentence. It is always cruel and unusual. Our courts are not infallible, and you can't bring people back after the fact.
The death penalty is the same as Israel's action in Gaza. It serves no purpose except revenge, none whatsoever.
Stopping terrorists from killing you serves a very important purpose, obviously.
Yeah, those 10+ gay children all deserve to die.
Not even revenge. It is just theater for those in power to throw a bone to their masses.
If the death penalty were really revenge, the families of the victims would have the option to pull the lever or push the button and execute the offender. Not that many families would, I suspect.
I have the morality of a physician, and I do not believe for 1 second that depriving a person of oxygen does not lead to a profound sense of panic and horror prior to death.
It's even more absurd that the Alabama Attorney General appears to have designated an NPO time of 8 hours, so the patient doesn't vomit during the execution.
And if he does vomit, the procedure is paused to clear the airway, so that the chemical suffocation can proceed. We have truly entered a sickening dystopian era.
Yes, the pro-life folks?
Agree about the NPO time. 8 hours seems pretty short. Before routine surgery, they had me NPO for over 12 hours due to vomit risk.
So you deprive a man of his last meal and send him off half-starved?
Going without food for 12 hours is half-starved. My, what a softie you actually are.
I had trouble sleeping on a soft mattress and felt like I was suffocating while in twilight. The thought was terror.
I do not believe for 1 second that depriving a person of oxygen does not lead to a profound sense of panic and horror prior to death.
It's used in willing euthanasia, so it isn't necessarily horrible in all cases.
If we must, why don't we just use the same drugs for physician aid in dying as for the death penalty? That seems the most humane way for capital punishment. Give it with their last meal. If it doesn't take, then go with the IV method.
Most physician-aided suicide now uses nitrogen. Basically the same as this execution. Although Alabama won't release the details of their protocol, so who knows what they messed up.
Then you're not a very good physician, as you evidently don't understand how breathing and respiration works.
It's all very sickening to me.
The absence of oxygen means no CO2 formed in the lungs, so the chemoreceptors for exhalation aren't activated and no pain or panic is experienced. Death follows a painless passing out that is unnoticed by the victim.
There are countless cases of people's experiences of passing out in a nitrogen atmosphere, such as after a liquid nitrogen spillage, or anoxia, such as with airline pilots, and all report simply unknowingly passing out.
I don't dispute the panic and fear from knowing that you are going to die, but any notion that nitrogen asphyxia is the direct cause is nonsense.
He was sentenced to death by a judge, not a jury, which is a violation of the Constitution, but that doesn't matter to the current Supreme Court.
Given how often our courts get convictions wrong and the many botched attempts at executions, there is no reason the state should be executing people ever. This whole eye for an eye garbage is barbaric and needs to end.
Nothing but state-sanctioned murder.
Nah, justice served.
Is this your idea of justice served, too?
Since 1973, at least 190 people have been exonerated from death row in the U.S., according to the Death Penalty Information Center, DPIC. A 2014 study estimated that at least 4% of those sentenced to death are innocent.
Well, there you have it, folks. Some pretty heated opinions about the death penalty. What do you think?